Hello, welcome to Skye's Sweaty Record Review, episode 150. The only first listen new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after leaving the YMCA. So, as I said in the last video, I'm doing two videos today because I'm catching up after 3 weeks of being on a kind of honeymoon. And, you know, it's a funny thing because the two groups that I've reviewed the most are Eric Taxon and Hippo Campus, and both of them released albums in the last 3 weeks. I don't know. So this is my catch-up. For all other music that came out during that time, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't exist. The next episode after this is going to be DJ Snake, and I'm just going to go on. So that summer of July 2019, there was no music, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so before I go into Demos Part 2 by Hippo Campus, I want to tell you a story about young Skye. So I have very vivid memories of a disastrous mathematics class. It must have been algebra, I don't know. Sophomore year of high school, and it was first period, which I don't think you should have to do anything. Like, when you're like 15, you shouldn't have to do anything at like 7 o'clock in the morning, but I had to do algebra, which was my worst subject. And I remember that I wouldn't take notes or pay attention or study or read the book or do anything. I wasn't a great math student. And what I would do instead was I would doodle in my notebook. And at the time, my band was called Pez. But I was really smart. I'm like, I want to get around the copyright thing, so we were called P.E.Z. So there you go. We would eventually change our name multiple times after that. But Pez really represented who we were. We loved candy, we loved toys, and we loved making music. And I would doodle in the margins, like Pez, World Tour. And so this was back in 1993. So I'd like write Pez, World Tour, and I would design t-shirts. You know, World Tour, 1998, 1997. You know, I had all these grand dreams. And I would like write sort of like liner notes in my head, and I'd pretend like this great, epic, arena-filling, meaningful rock band that we would eventually become. And I was certain of it. And in my mind, I didn't know that we weren't Nirvana. Now, what does that have to do with Hippo Campus? They've now released 2 demo albums, like 2 demos associated with this album, Bambi. And after the first one, I made a joke, because it was the same time that all those OK Computer demos were released by Radiohead. And I made it seem like I was going to talk about Radiohead, but instead I was talking about Hippo Campus. I think that Hippo Campus doesn't know it's not Radiohead. I don't think they know that they're not actually Phoenix. And I think this is a really good thing, because they have treated this album, Bambi, which is, as I've come to realize, an absolute masterpiece, on par with a Phoenix album or a Radiohead album. Even though it hasn't been received by that as the critics, it didn't win all the Grammys, they are not a household name, I don't know anybody over the age of 40 who knows of them. But like, they just sort of know that their album is this good, that Bambi is so good that they're not going to have to wait for some kind of pathetic 20th anniversary reissue to bring out all of the B-sides and all of the demos and everything. They're just giving it to you now. Because, you know, they have real fans, I know, because they like my channel, which is awesome. Their fans know that they're Radiohead. They know that they're Radiohead, but no one else does. So, you know, the first Demos album was extraordinary. It allowed you to understand the framework of their songwriting and show you what their production does and what is just the skeletons, the bones of their great music. This next one is actually a lot like the B-side album on OK Computer, you know? So if you get this deluxe edition of Radiohead, there's an entire album worth of material that they produced, that they wrote, that is 10 times better than anything else that was being done in 1997, but not nearly as good as anything on OK Computer. And the good news and the bad news about Demos 2 by Hippo Campus, Demos 2 of Bambi, is that it's the same thing. You know, these songs are significantly above most other rock and roll that has been released in the last couple of years, but they are significantly below the quality of the album Bambi. Sometimes B-sides and rarities and unreleased things make you think like, oh my God, you know, like they could have done so much more. But I think when it's the best is when it feels the way that it does with both of these albums. I mean, the OK Computer's a perfect record. You don't need any more tracks. You don't need to put Palo Alto on there in order for it to be a better track. But the existence that you know that these bands are just bursting with creativity, that they are at their absolute peak, and that even their sort of runoff is better than their previous work and might be better than their future work as well. But they have so much that's coming that they just need to get out. So that's my sort of general review of Demos Part 2. There isn't a single track on here that is as good as anything that's on Bambi. There isn't, which is good. That's a sign that they knew how to make a good album. I think a lot of bands, especially hyped bands, young bands, bands that are full of themselves, maybe if they had the success that they should have had after Landmark, they would have felt like, we're going to release a double record. You know, they would have gone all Smashing Pumpkins or whatever. But they didn't. They pared it down and released a perfect record. And then they're just sharing the runoff with us. So that's what this is. Totally worth a listen. Excellent music. It does that thing where at times, you know, like I wish I was like a billionaire and I would just give them, you know, here's $200 million. Just produce it all, you know, like go in and give it the same attention, you know, call it Bambi 2. Electric Bambi-Loo, you know, like just release it and do your own thing with it. But no, they're going to move forward and hopefully do another great album. I'll kind of go track by track. It opens up with Chapstick, which is sort of in that mode of the Strokes that they, you know, sometimes they sound kind of Strokesy on Bambi. And this, wait, actually, what's the track that's all Strokesy? I think it's Honestly. Yes, Honestly. So it's kind of in that mode. And I sort of wonder if they didn't have like Chapstick and Honestly next to each other and had to go, well, we can't have too many like Strokes-ish songs. And that's not to really insult it. Like, it's better, well, I like it more than the Strokes, but it's in that kind of mode. Also reminded me of the movie Malibu's Most Wanted, where the joke is that the guy's a bad rapper, and he's trying to prove how good he is. And he's like, Traffic, looking for my chapstick. Hey, look over there. It's a Ford Maverick. Underrated movie. Next track is No Palms. I don't know what that means. P-O-M-S. I really don't know what that means. Is that some millennial thing? I don't know. It's really nice drums in there. This is one I would love to see developed a little bit more, cleaned up a bit. It sounds a little bit underwater. It's quite catchy. Next track is Pin, which I call hippotypical. It's like a stereotypical Hippo Campus song. The guitar work, the singing, it all is just like someone was doing a parody of a Hippo Campus song. Or like they made a Hippo Campus song generator and this is what came out. Which is not to say that it's bad, but it's almost unnecessary if you listen to the rest of their work. Elephant Boys is that other guy singing. Not the lead singer guy, but the other guy. It's solid, but I think it's probably good that they keep him sort of the Bob Weir, the John Entwistle, the sort of like, you know, not exactly 50-50, you know, like give him a couple tracks, but not, you know, 50-50, because he's good, but a little bit goes a long way. Kentucky is a track which is good. I think it's good they left it off the album, a little too much whistling, but I'm sorry for the edit. I forgot to put my phone on silent, whatever that is. I got a call from New York State, which is a weird, ominous thing. Anyways, so Kentucky is nice, good minor breakdown, but that leads to Ease Up Kid, and this is my stamp of the record. I'm going to play a little bit of it. I really like how Hippo Campus plays with falsetto. I don't even really notice that they're doing it as much as, like, they do it a lot. They do a lot of falsetto, but I don't even always notice it. And I'm going to play you just a little bit of the song. It's in the mode of the song Anxious, which lyrically is nice. I'm an anxious person by nature. I get the sense that the lead singer of the band is as well. And, you know, instead of singing about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, or instead of singing about heartbreak, like singing about like anxiety and learning to love yourself, I don't know. That's great stuff. That's right in my wheelhouse. So I'll play a little bit of the song Ease Up Kid, where you hear how it transforms from his falsetto to his lower voice. So let's hear that. Drums come in. Ooh, it's going to be copyright struck now. Oh well. That's great. This is great. Ooh, yeah, see, I'd love to see that one fleshed out a bit more. Maybe let the drummer off the chain a little bit there. You know, instead of just adding the snare, like let him go a little bit crazy. But still, great dynamics on that track. Great lyrics. I would say that's the one that I'm closest to loving. Cellar Door is fine. Feels a little bit like filler. The song Champion is, maybe they have overly millennial instincts at times. There's kind of like acoustic guitar and someone going woo-hoo, and I don't know, there's enough good guitar work and interesting sounds at the end that saves it from being too millennial, but it sounds a little bit, and then it ends with Joy. And the song Joy, in some ways, belongs most actually on the actual album because it doesn't remind me of anything from there. It adds something new. There's this interesting technique of having a sort of rumbling acoustic guitar in the beginning. I'll place like multiple acoustic guitars that then have these vocals sailing over the top, which is a nice sound. And then harmonies come in with a higher vocal at the same time. Listen to it on headphones and hear it. So there it is. There's Bambi Demos Part 2 from a band which fortunately does not know that it is Radiohead, and in the end, they might be Radiohead. I mean, they have to do a couple more great albums, but, you know. Or Phoenix. They sound more like Phoenix, less like Radiohead. Okay, so there is the 150th episode. I now have 300 subscribers, which is cool. Boy, people watch that Aurora video a lot. I guess because I came across like I might be negative and people like negative reviews, but I don't do negative reviews. I just don't. So if you like hearing people talk about music they hate, you can listen to someone else because that's boring. All right, until next time, let's see if I can find it this time. There's the camera.